So welcome to our talk this week. I don't need to say much. Professor Sudeshna Basu is professor at our university, specialized in functional analysis. And today she will talk about linear Hahn-Banach linear Hahn-Banach type extension operators in Banach algebras of operators.
Thank you, Stefan, for a very nice introduction, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk at this colloquium. In fact, this is my first colloquium in the department. We have been thinking about it for a long time, but so many things happening, it never happened. So it's virtual. One good thing is I have a few of my favorite people attending it, which would not have been possible if it was a physical lecture. So from that point of view, it's nice. Okay, so let me start my talk. So my talk is entitled Linear Hahn-Banach Type Extension Operators in Banach Algebras of Operators. And this is a joint work with Professor Ajit Iqbal Singh, who is also present in the audience. So I feel so honored. And I have to say that I know she'll get mad at me. She is my mathematical mentor. I mean, I have to say this, folks, that I didn't do any research for about 10 years, and then I met Ajit Iqbal Singh, and she brought me back to mathematics. I mean, I was teaching, but I was not doing any research. She brought me back to the love for mathematics. I mean, she's just an amazing, amazing, amazing person. I cannot stop talking about her. I know she's getting mad at me, but I just cannot help it. She was with me in Washington, D.C. for 3 weeks, and I cannot tell you how much fun we had for those 3 weeks. It was mathematics right from the morning till the end of the day. At night, we only did mathematics. And I stayed with her at her Delhi residence, and it was the same thing. And I just cannot stop talking about her. As I said, she is my mentor. I consider her to be my mentor, my inspiration, everything. So this is a joint work with her, and this was published in 2019 in Mathematical Proceedings of the Royal Irish Academy. If anyone wants a copy, let me know. I can send you a copy. Okay, so the introduction. So let X be a Banach space over the real or complex field. X star its dual. Sorry for the typo, the L is missing. Let Bx be the Banach algebra of all bounded linear operators on X. So I'm just introducing some notations. So let us first recall what is a Hahn-Banach theorem, and maybe if some of you in the audience may not have had the opportunity to look at Hahn-Banach theorem, but it's a very simple theorem. The statement, not the proof, but the statement is very simple. The question is, if we have a norm linear space, so basically a vector space with a kind of a distance attached to it, and if we have a subspace of that norm linear space, if we have a linear functional defined on M, can we extend it to the whole of X? And the answer is yes, we can do it. And the answer is also, we have some additional criteria, which is we can also preserve the norm, which is excellent. So not only we can extend the functional to the whole of X, we can also preserve the norm of the functional. So that is Hahn-Banach theorem. So Hahn-Banach theorem actually has a lot of applications in other fields of mathematics. And when I give a talk at other places, sometimes they wonder what are the applications, and there is no end to the applications of Hahn-Banach theorem. So Kesavan, Professor Kesavan, who is in the TIFR Center in Bangalore, has a wonderful article on this. And there is another book which I have been looking at. It's by Zidler. This is the reference. It also has various aspects of applications of functional analysis discussed. And one of the highlights is Hahn-Banach theorem and its applications. So we all know that one of the greatest implications of Hahn-Banach theorem is separations of sets from a point in a Banach space. So suppose if we have a point and if we have a closed bounded convex set, we can separate it by a hyperplane. And this is given by Hahn-Banach theorem, the geometric consequence, it is called, of the Hahn-Banach theorem. And this has enormous applications in optimization theory. So I was looking at Zidler's book. It also discusses about how this aspect of Hahn-Banach theorem is used for implementing optimal control of rockets. So it's really fascinating. So, and Kesavan's article, Professor Kesavan's article is also really fascinating. Anyone who wants it, I have a copy of that I can share with you. Okay, so now X is a Banach space, X star its dual, M a closed subspace. For each bounded linear functional, we define this set, HMF. So what are HMF? HMF are those X star, those elements from the dual of X, which are extensions of functionals from F. So these are all norm-preserving extensions of functionals from F. So by Hahn-Banach theorem, we first of all know that this set is non-empty. So now what we do is we define a mapping from the dual of M star to the dual of X star by selecting one such extension, and that is exactly what I have written there. So TF belongs to HMF. So we select one of these extensions and we define this map. So this map is called Hahn-Banach extension operator, and clearly it is norm preserving. And if it is linear, we call it a linear Hahn-Banach extension operator. Okay, so let me just pause for a moment here. So we have M, a subspace, closed subspace. X is the bigger space. We have a linear functional on M, and we know that we can extend it to the whole of X. So we use that information to define this map from M star to X star. And this operator is called Hahn-Banach extension operator. Clearly from Hahn-Banach theorem, it is norm preserving. And if it is linear, we call it a linear Hahn-Banach extension operator. So a brief survey of the work that has been done in this subject. So this was initiated by Lyndon Strauss when he was studying non-separable reflexive Banach spaces. And then a lot of work was done on this direction by Heinrich and Mankiewicz. Later, Simpson-Yost also examined the existence of large families of subspaces admitting linear Hahn-Banach extension operator. So if I just quickly go back to the slide, remember this is my operator T from M star to X star. So the question is, when is this linear? So that is what we are interested in. The operator can always be defined due to Hahn-Banach theorem. But question is, when is it linear? So here, Simpson-Yost's result come in. So they show that there are large families of subspaces for which this operator is linear. And this, in fact, is the starting point of our work. This is what inspired us to ask the questions that we asked in this paper. Harman, Warner, and Warner also studied a linear Hahn-Banach extension in the context of M ideals and M embedded spaces, and I'm not going too much into this. Basically, these are some special type of subspaces of a Banach space, and a lot of technicalities is needed, and this is not really the focus of what we are going to talk about, but it's a nice thing to know and to read about in the context of context of Hahn-Banach extension operator and its linearity. Lima and Oya studied the existence for spaces, context of spaces of bounded linear operators between two Banach spaces. So same question they asked, and they assumed when one of them is has the Radon-Nikodym property. So, since my primary area of work is geometry of Banach spaces, this is a well-known fact that Radon-Nikodym property has a a vector measure analog in Banach spaces, just like we have in our real and complex analysis. So here, from the geometric point of view, Radon-Nikodym property also has a lot of geometric characterizations. So one I'll quote. A space has RnP if and only if every non-empty weakly closed set has an extreme point. So this is one characterization. And then there are many other geometric characterizations. So the reason I quoted this is both Lima and Oya actually worked in geometry of Banach spaces. Subsequently, Oya Hahn-Banach extension operators in the context of principle of local reflexivity. So this is also extremely interesting. And again, this definition is has a lot of technicalities in it. The main idea of principle of local reflexivity is if we look at X inside of X star star, so in some sense we can think of kind of a reflexivity happening whenever we are looking at some finite dimensional subspaces of X star and its intersection with X. The kind of local reflexivity is happening there. So in that context, Oya and Polver studied this type of extensions. Abramson studied the linear Hahn-Banach extension operators in the context of almost isometric ideals in Banach spaces. So what are these almost isometric ideals? Again, I'll not go into the technicalities, but as I said that X has this property inside of X star star, which is denoted by principle of local reflexivity, and X is actually an almost isometric ideal in the double dual. So the idea here is, I'm spending a little bit of time here for the reason that sometimes we watch a phenomenon that X satisfies inside of the double dual, and then we try to imitate it in the main Banach space X. So X is satisfying some phenomenon in X double dual. So now we look at those properties and we ask the question, suppose I choose a closed subspace of X, and suppose Y has those properties in X. We define that those conditions, which X satisfies in a double dual. Now we choose a closed subspace and we make that, we say, what if a closed subspace have those similar properties in X? So this is a very common thing that we do in geometry of Banach spaces. So that's exactly what almost isometric ideals are. So we imitate the conditions of principle of local reflexivity in the Banach space for a closed subspace, and what we get is almost isometric ideals. So Abramson studied these in the context of almost isometric ideals. And here, of course, I wrote recently, and I was giving another talk somewhere else on this topic, and I said it's not so much recent anymore because this is a work which was done 2016, 2017. But when we were writing our paper, that was recent because this was published 2019 and we were working 2017, 2018. So Joost has studied extensively the notion of linear Hahn-Banach extension operators and its relationship to ball intersection properties in the context of geometry of Banach spaces. So again, this is very important for geometry of Banach spaces. What are ball intersection properties? So in the context of geometry of Banach spaces, recall just now I mentioned the geometric implication or consequence of Hahn-Banach theorem. If we have a point and if we have a closed bounded convex set, we know we can separate it by a hyperplane. Question is, can we separate it by union of balls? And that loosely is the ball intersection property. And there are many variations of this property, like can we do the separation by finite union of balls, by countable union, finite intersection of union of balls, etc., etc. And each of this version actually gives us some very interesting geometric property of the underlying Banach space. So these properties are a very important branch of study in the context of geometry of Banach space. So Yost studied this in that context. So now we come to the main result which inspired us with this work. So first we need this following definition. By the density character we mean of a Banach space, we mean the least cardinality of any dense subset of X. So this result is the result which actually inspired us with our work. This is the central result which we wanted to imitate in our context. So what is the result? The result is, suppose we start with a closed subspace of a Banach space. So N is a closed subspace of a Banach space. Then we can always find a bigger closed subspace so that N is contained in M, and dense M is equal to dense N, meaning that their sizes in some sense are comparable, and a linear Hahn-Banach extension operator exists from M star to E star. So all we are saying here is we start with N, and we can always have a Hahn-Banach extension operator from N star to X star also, but we don't know whether every time we'll have that to be a linear operator. But we can put N inside another bigger closed subspace, and the size of N and M are comparable in some sense in terms of their density, so that this Hahn-Banach extension operator from M star to E star is linear. So this was the result which actually inspired us. So we asked questions like, what if we change this Banach space to some other structure? Can we still have and ask this question? And is there a meaningful answer to this? So this is how our work started. So remember, this is the main result. A Banach space E, closed subspace, can always be put inside another bigger closed subspace in a sense that their sizes are comparable. And from the bigger space, this operator is linear. So here, the fact that dense M equal to dense N is also a very important part of the theorem, because if we don't have that, just imagine that we can always, if we allow M to be as big as we want, we can have the whole Banach space E, and that's always possible by Hahn-Banach theorem, but that's not what we want. We want to have a control in the size of the bigger space M, and that is determined by this density property, okay? So some observation about this result. It is not difficult to show that if X is a Hilbert space, then T is linear. And conversely, if every two-dimensional subspace of X admits a linear Hahn-Banach extension operator, then X is a Hilbert space. For a Banach space, as I said earlier also, linearity is not available in general, but due to the result by Sims and Yost, we can expect plenty of subspaces. Why plenty? Because you choose any subspace, you can put it inside a bigger one from where it is linear. So you can have plenty of subspaces which would admit linear Hahn-Banach extension operator. We also have another interesting result by Taylor and Fogwell. This is a very old result, which is an interesting aspect, because if you recall that we defined that set HMF all the linear extensions. So here this says that if the dual is strictly convex, then all the functionals from any subspace would have unique Hahn-Banach extension. So each HMF will be actually a singleton. So that is ensured if and only if X star is strictly convex. This is not really related to what we are doing, but I thought it's a nice geometric property by which its uniqueness is characterized, the extensions. So I just wanted to mention it. Okay, so now we come to our setup. So we ask the same question. So let me go back to Sims and Yost theorem. So replace the Banach space by a Banach module, replace the closed subspace by a submodule, closed submodule. And we ask this question, can we do something like this for a Banach module? So this is how we started. So suppose we have a closed submodule of a Banach module. I'll tell you what is a Banach module, etc. But first the question. So if we have a closed submodule, if we have a Banach module, can we always have a bigger submodule in, and can their sizes be compared so that if we have a module homomorphism, and if we can have an extension operator defined. So we have a module homomorphism on the submodule. Can we have an extension? And can we have, if we can have the extensions for each one of these module homomorphisms, then if we define an operator in the same way, can that operator be an A-linear operator? A-linear meaning, since we are talking about modules now, we will have Banach algebras. So let me come back to the module. So suppose A is a Banach algebra, a Banach space together with a continuous linear bilinear operator defined on X, which gives it a left module structure, is called a left A module. Similarly, we can define a right module and a bimodule. And a continuous homomorphism between two Banach modules is called a morphism. So a very good example is a Banach algebra is a module over itself. In fact, when we go along in this talk, you will see that most of our discussion is revolving around Banach algebras, and not only Banach algebra, a particular type of Banach algebra, that is the Banach algebra of bounded linear transformations from X to X, where X is a Banach space. So A, in our case, the study that we have done, so the question of Simpson-Yost, we have answered in the context of a particular Banach module, which is BE. BE is a Banach algebra and it's a module over itself, and that is where we look at this question. So here again, as I said, that when I give a talk to some places, they want to know the applications, and I was very pleasantly surprised to see that and one can also analogously define Hilbert modules. If we start with a C-star algebra, we can induce an inner product, and so we can define a Hilbert module. So this work actually shows the frames in Hilbert modules. And the second one, this one shows how these frames are incorporated into quantum probability. This was really fascinating when I was just looking into this, and this is a fairly old paper, but it has a very nice survey about where Banach modules are applied. What applications do they have? So basically, you can see Banach spaces of distributions having module structures. Anyway, so let me go into some of the notations that we will be using. So A is a Banach algebra. X denote a Banach, left Banach A module. X dash is its dual, that is LXA of all bounded left A module homomorphisms from X to A, which is a Banach right A module. LX denote the space of all bounded left A linear operators from X to itself. So BX is the bounded linear transformations, and these are the A linear operators. And as I said, that one can define Hilbert modules similarly if A is a C-star algebra, but I really will not talk too much about Hilbert modules, except that I think I have some examples where the Banach modules are Hilbert modules. Other than that, I don't think I'll be talking about it. Okay, so Hahn-Banach type extensions in Banach modules. So as I said, that remember again the question that we want to ask, we have a submodule of a Banach module. Now, can we put it inside a bigger submodule, and can we have that Hahn-Banach type extension operator in the context of module homomorphisms? So that is the question that we started with. So suppose X be a Banach left A module, X dash its A dual, and suppose M be a Banach left A submodule of X, and suppose F belonging to M dash has an extension F tilde, we call F tilde a Hahn-Banach type extension if we call it a Hahn-Banach type extension, and if their norms are the same, we call it Hahn-Banach type extension of F. So the first remark which I would make here is, so require, just like I mentioned about the almost isometric ideal, the essence here is the same. We are trying to imitate something which Simpson-Yost did for closed subspaces, but they had this rich theorem for them, which really helped them, is Hahn-Banach theorem, but we don't have that for modules. So every time we are saying, suppose F has an extension, because we don't know whether it would have an extension. We don't have a Hahn-Banach theorem. Then we say, suppose their norms are preserved, because all this was part of Hahn-Banach theorem for closed subspaces. Here, nothing can be assumed. So we are saying, what if there is an extension? What if the norm is preserved? So we call it a norm-preserving Hardt-Banach type extension. So we need some more assumptions also. So by the Hardt-Banach extension set of F now, for a particular F, we define HMF just like before. Now these are module homomorphisms. And what are the module homomorphisms belonging to HMF? Those are extensions of F to the whole space X, the whole module X. So here, since we don't have Hardt-Banach theorem, HMF may not be non-empty always. So again, suppose it is non-empty. Suppose we have a submodule that is for that submodule for each F, HMF is non-empty. That is for that particular submodule, all the morphisms could be extended to the whole of X. So now with that assumption, we define our map T from M dash to X dash such that TF belongs to HMF. So this part is same, but look at so many assumptions we needed to make just to get into the problem, just to define the problem in our context. Then T is called a Hardt-Banach type extension operator, and if norm TF is norm F for all F belonging to M dash, then we call it a norm preserving Hardt-Banach type extension operator. So all this for Banach space were pretty smooth due to Hardt-Banach theorem, but here everything has to be stated separately, and we are doing it step by step, meaning that first of all, for one functional, whether there is an extension, if the norm is preserved, and then we select a particular submodule, and suppose for that submodule we can do the extension for each one of them, and and then we define the operator if norm TF is norm F for all F, then we call it a norm preserving Hardt-Banach type extension operator. And we can analogously define these concepts for right and two-sided modules. So here is an important theorem which we will use back and forth. So I just wanted to mention it. It shows how the module structure works, etc., etc. So if we have a Banach algebra, X dash we already know is the left A module homomorphisms from X to A, and it is a right A module. We already mentioned what is the action. F dot A of X is Fx dot A. And if we have G, module homomorphism from A to X, then F compose G is a left A module homomorphism from A to itself. And F to F compose G is a right A module. So these are some of the technicalities. We may need it, may not, but just to give you an idea how the module structure is lifted from a space to the dual. Now for any proper Banach left submodule M of a Banach left module X, we said that M is said to have the Hardt-Banach type extension property whenever there exists a Hardt-Banach type extension operator T from M dash to X dash, which is also a right A linear map. So now we are incorporating the condition of the linearity here. Henceforth, we refer to Hardt-Banach type extension property as HBA, EP. So now we are talking about the extension which are also A-linear. So examples of existence. So as I said that there could be extensions, there may not be extensions. So two very simple examples I have. The first one is, suppose A is the C-star algebra of complex continuous functions on 0, 1, union 2, 3. A is a Hilbert module over itself. And if we look at the submodule, that is all those F belonging to A which vanishes on 2, 3. And we look at the characteristic function on 0, 1. So choose any module homomorphism on M and define a function psi from A to A as psi is phi of GU. Okay, so clearly psi is a Hardt-Banach type extension operator of phi. So now we can define T from M dash to A dash as a linear Hardt-Banach type extension operator. So here we exhibit a Hardt-Banach type extension operator for M. Similarly, if we choose our M to be that submodule which vanishes on 0, 1, we can do the same thing. So it also has Hardt-Banach type extension operator, and actually it can be shown that precisely these are the only submodules of A which would have the Hardt-Banach type extension operator. So these are examples where we have extension, Hardt-Banach type extensions. Now the non-existence. Another simple example, if we look at our paper, if anyone is interested, there are many other examples in more general way they're discussed, but I just wanted to choose some simpler ones so that everyone gets to get a feeling of what is going on here. So if A is C01, then it is again it's a C-star algebra of complex continuous functions, and so A is a Hilbert module over itself. Look at the subspace, which is all those continuous functions which vanish at 0. So it is as A submodule. So we define a map phi from M to A as phi of f of u is fu times sine of 1 over u if u belongs to open 0, 1 and 0 for 0. And you can see that there is no way we can extend it to the whole of C01. So here is an example where we see that we have a submodule and we have a module homomorphism which cannot be extended to the whole of A. So you see the difficulty that we face, the challenge that we face for not having Hahn-Banach theorem for us in the context of modules. Now it is also clear from the example that the big difference, as I said, in the shift when we shift from Banach spaces to Banach modules. And so the first observation now is, since we already exhibited that there could be some modules and there could be module homomorphisms which cannot be extended, that there is no way we can ask that general question for Banach modules, the question that Simpson-Jost asked for Banach spaces. We cannot do that for Banach modules. So what are the ways we can address that? The very what should I say, the intuitive way to proceed with this question is we can put some conditions on the Banach algebra to see if the Banach algebra has some special properties. Maybe we can do that, or we can choose some special Banach modules to do that. So what in our case, we chose some special Banach modules. As I keep repeating, this is the Banach algebra of all continuous linear bounded transformations from a Banach space to itself. That's where we did the study, but there is a literature survey where people put in a lot of conditions on the Banach algebra itself to have Simpson-Jost type result, which I'll mention briefly. So here there is another important thing which we should remember, because we keep using this in our work, that if we have this condition that Z is contained, Z is contained in Y is contained in X, Y has this Hahn-Banach extension, so what I'm trying to say is Z has Hahn-Banach extension as a submodule of Y, then it has also this property with respect to X. So we will keep interchanging X and Y in our discussion. And it gives a better understanding and significance of the question, the theorem of Simpson-Jost from where we started. Okay, so some of the things that we will be using. So suppose A is a Banach algebra, we may consider it as a Banach module over itself. Then left-right A submodules are exactly left-right ideals. So in our discussion, we will conveniently use the term submodules and ideals, because remember, our discussion is always on Bx, which is a Banach algebra and it's a module over itself. And for A belonging to A, if we define this map rho A of B, BA, this is a bounded left A module homomorphism, and if A is unital, then every bounded A module homomorphism will look like this. And if A is unital, then a maximal left-right ideal in A is closed. So we are talking about all ideals here because everything is closed. I'm sorry, the maximal ideals are closed. And you'll see why we observe this, because this will again come into our discussion. So as I said, that our work is mainly concentrated on A equal to BE with dimension E greater than 2. And the reason is because there's this huge, interesting work by Dales, Kania, Koshenek, Kosminter, and Loss, and I'll just say Dales et al. In future. So this actually gives a lot of characterizations about this maximal closed left ideals. How would they look like? They have a precise description, etc. And we keep using invoke their results when we study this, and we show that there will be always this maximal ideals which would have such properties, Hahn-Banach extension properties. So that is the reason that we study that. And this helps us to answer this question of Simpson-Yost completely in this setup. So basically what we answer is we can have an exact analog of Simpson-Yost theorem for reflexive Banach space, and for non-reflexive we actually show that it's not true. So that is the whole format of our work here. So some literature survey here, because these are really important work that has been done previously. So there is a vast literature of Hilbert modules, and authors have preferences for right or left modules. Michael Frank's homepage lists almost all references in this field. He's doing an amazing work there. If you want to look at any Hilbert modules publication or work, it's there in Michael Frank's homepage. In fact, our work also appears there now. And Paschke is one of the earliest person who was looking at such problems. And so he was looking at the inner product on a Hilbert space, on a Hilbert module, and how that could be extended to the dual. So that kind of extension problems he was looking at. Lin studied this, as I said, that some people put some extra conditions on the algebra itself. So he put a lot of importance on the structure of the C-star algebra. And Frank established necessary sufficient condition on the coefficients of the C-star algebra again, so that every submodule of a Hilbert module has Hahn-Banach extension property. So he had pretty strong conditions on the Banach algebra, which made every submodule would have this property. So these are really interesting works, and anyone who is interested can write to me, and it's also in our references. You can look at that and look at their works. And Dawes, actually, this also reminds me that after looking at Simpson-Yost, we were actually looking at Dawes' result when he was doing similar extensions for Banach modules and Banach algebras. Okay, so one of the first notions and notations that we use, and one of the lemmas that we would be using in future. So we have BE, and FE is the ideal with finite dimensional range. So FE can be written as span of F tensor X, where F tensor X acts on an element in the very obvious way, Fi times X. And if we choose any S from BE star, then we can define a module homomorphism in the following manner. Phi acts on F tensor X as SF tensor X. And this can be extended to the, so we are defining it on the atoms, but it can be extended to the whole of Fe, and this is a bounded left A module homomorphism. And the next lemma is very interesting, because you will see how deeply we use this, heavily use this in many proofs. So if we have a bounded left A module, so if we have a closed left ideal of A, so read, this is a submodule in our language, containing Fe, and suppose phi restricted to Fe is 0, then phi is identically 0. Phi as an extension phi tilde from A to A as a bounded left A module homomorphism, if and only phi restricted to Fe has an extension. So this is a very, very powerful result, and in that case phi tilde is unique. And third is, if we consider any, what should I say, phi, that phi actually can be represented like this. So it has this, so we know the description of phi. So this is a very strong lemma. So now we come to some of the results that has been proved by Dell et al. So fix X belonging to E such that norm X is 1. By Hahn-Banach theorem, we can find a phi X belonging to the dual whose norm is 1, and it also evaluated at X, it is equal to the norm of X, which in this case is 1. Fix any such phi X, and we now begin with a few concepts and results from Dale et al. So first of all, for this X, we define this set T belonging to BE such that Tx is 0, and n phi X is phi X tensor Y. So phi X tensor Y, we know how that is defined. So it turns out that Mx and n phi X are closed linear subspaces of A. And In fact, these are closed left ideals. So basically they are left submodules, and their intersection is empty, and mx is not 0 if and only if dimension of E is greater or equal to 2. And so in our discussion, we assume that the dimension is greater or equal to 2. So this is a very important theorem which we invoke continuously in our work. So what they have done here is they have characterized, or they have a complete description of the maximal ideals I of A. So read the maximal submodules of A, if we consider A as a Banach algebra. I'm sorry, a Banach module. So I is either of the form mx, where x belongs to E, norm x equal to 1, or I contains Fe. So just remember what Fe is. Fe is this. So the maximal ideals can only be of these two types, either I equal to mx or it contains Fe. So now you see why this helps us. So now when we look at any submodule, we know that it will be inside a maximal submodule. So if it is inside mx, that is one, and if it is inside another submodule which contains Fe, that is another. So now we look at, first of all, these maximal submodules or left ideals, whatever you call them. So recalling the following result from Simpson-Yost, if M is the range of norm 1 projections P on X, then P star is a linear Hahn-Banach extension operator from M star to X star. And we have a following result, which is can be thought of as an analog. So if we have a proper closed left ideal of A, which is generated by a single idempotent element, L has the Hahn-Banach extension property, and D has, if D has norm 1, then it has norm preserving Hahn-Banach extension property. So this is the first positive result we have for a particular type of submodule. And the next result is very powerful also, because it helps us to go forward with the Simpson-Yost kind of question. So for our Banach module or Banach algebra, whatever you call it, BE, MX and N phi x that we described in the previous slides, both of them have Hahn-Banach extension property, and N phi x actually has norm preserving Hahn-Banach extension. So recall what MX and NX are, because they'll keep coming back, especially MX will keep coming back. So MX is T belonging to BE, Tx is equal to 0. Okay, so this is the same lemma that I quoted earlier, but this is, as I said, it's very important that if we have a closed left ideal containing Fe, then it has these properties which is very strong, that if we can make everything happen for Fe, that's good enough for L. So now suppose if I have L1 and L2 be two closed left ideals with this condition, Fe contained in L1 contained in L2, then L1 has Hahn-Banach extension. Suppose L1 has Hahn-Banach extension, then L2 has Hahn-Banach extension. Equivalently, you can see what happens. If L1 is contained in the compact, the set of all compact morphisms, then compact linear transformations, then L1 has a Hahn-Banach extension if and only if E is reflexive. So remember, I said that we solve our questions in two different contexts for Banach modules, especially for BE, when E is reflexive and E is not reflexive. So see how reflexivity is creeping in. Third part is, if E is reflexive, then L2 has Hahn-Banach extension property. So I'll just give a brief sketch of the proof. So by the previous lemma, recall that phi going to phi restricted to L1, which is a map from LL2A to LL1A, is injective. Why? Because if phi restricted to L1 is 0, then phi restricted to Fe is 0, and we know that such maps will be identically 0 from that lemma. So this becomes injective. And if L1 has HBAEP, then for psi belonging to L1A, psi restricted to Fe has a unique extension psi cap belonging to LA, and this map psi to psi cap L1A is right A linear. So we are assuming that this has a P, and this is right A linear. But now look at that the strength of the lemma. So phi restricted to Fe is nothing but phi restricted to L1 restricted to Fe, because they have this close knit kind of thing here. So for phi belonging to L2A, we obtain from that lemma that phi in L2A has a unique extension phi tilde in LA, and this is a right A linear map. So that if and only if condition, remember that if this has extension, if and only if this has extension. So all that helps us to conclude that L2 also has Hahn-Banach extension property. The second part I omitted the proof because it needed more technical results and I didn't want to go into it. But the third part is also very interesting and elegant, though it's very easy to observe that L1, if L1 is suppose Fe closure, then what do we get? So now E is reflexive, and if L1 is Fe closure, from 2 we have L1 is contained in Ke, and from 2 we know that L1 has HBEP. So we can use the above result to conclude that L2 will also have it, because if L1 has it, L2 has it, and if we choose L1 to be this, from 2 it has HBEP, so L2 will have it. So this is a strong result, and you see how this will help us to go back to our question that if we start with any submodules, as I said, that we can put it inside maximal submodules, and that will help us to deduce questions like Simpson-Yost. So here they also talk about the reflexive Banach spaces, especially Dells et al., that if we have a reflexive space and if we have a closed left ideal, so we will look at that part of the theorem, that if L is a closed ideal or submodule, and if E is reflexive, L is contained in Mx for some x. So any closed ideal is contained in Mx, and the other option is L contains Fe. So now you can see how the whole picture is kind of fitting in. So if now, this is our corollary from this theorem, if E is reflexive, then any closed left ideal L in A is either contained in Mx or it contains Fe. In the latter case, L has Hahn-Banach extension. So see, we already know that Mx has Hahn-Banach extension, and by this result, if we have a closed left ideal, which is a submodule, it is either contained in Mx or contains Fe. So if it is contained in Mx, then it is contained in a bigger submodule which has Hahn-Banach extension property, and in the latter case L has HBEP, because in the previous one we proved that if there is an ideal which contains Fe and if E is reflexive, then it has Hahn-Banach. So you can see that we are there. So we have actually, for reflexive spaces, we have a result like Simpson-Yost. So now, if E is a reflexive Banach space, L be a proper closed left ideal of BE, which is a Banach left A submodule. Then there exists a proper Banach left A submodule M such that L is contained in M and M has HBEP. And the proof is very easy. First of all, if it is contained in Mx, then Mx has HBEP. And by the corollary, if it contains so what is the other? So the other part is it is contained in an ideal like this, which contains Fe, and we know that it has HBEP itself. So basically, what we are showing here is either it is contained in a submodule or it itself has HBEP. So basically, we have a positive answer for Simpson-Yost result for reflexive Banach spaces, and when our Banach module is BE. So that's the remark. The next remark is this can be thought of as an analog of the theorem of Simpson-Yost, and there is a control on this on the size, in the sense that the sizes of these modules are if not comparable, at least we know that MXs are singly generated. So we have some control over the size of Mx. So if L is contained in Mx, that we have a control. Well, for maximal ideals or closed left ideals containing Fe, that may not be true, But the only thing is, if L itself has HBP, we don't have the situation of comparing their size because it itself has it. So in a sense, this is a complete result, a complete analog of Sims and Yost result. So now comes the non-reflexive case, and that is extremely complicated, and I'll just talk about it very, very briefly. So this is the example, which is so we come to a non-reflexive Banach space, and we show that this is not true. So Sims and Yost kind of a result is not true. So this is a Banach space, which is called Argyros-Hayden. So we have Maria. So I believe Argyros is definitely from Greece. I don't know about Hayden. Excuse my ignorance. Anyway, so this is a Banach space with a very few operators. Yeah, okay, good. Good to have you here. So, and BXAH, so XH is called very few operators. So here when we say very few, when I first looked at this, I thought it's just like some adjectives being used, very few, but it has a technical connotation. Basically, the bounded operators look like this KIAH times KXH plus K. So it is a scalar multiple of identity plus a compact operator. So that is the precise description of the bounded operators. They look at the L infinity sum of XAH and Y. So I was giving this talk somewhere else and somebody asked me what is the L infinity sum. So I guess most of you know, but if you don't, then what we mean by L infinity sum is we have this direct sum of these two subspaces, and the norm on Z is the max norm. So norm Z in any element from Z is max of X, norm X, norm Y. So the max of the coordinate norms. So that is the norm there. And it is, I should not have said well known, I guess Kania-Lawson shows that this is a non-reflexive space. And any T for this space has this kind of a representation, has a unique representation of this form. So T looks like this. So how, let me describe these quantities here. So IXH, of course, is the identity on XAH. K11 is K11, where is K11? Yeah, so it's a compact operator from XAH to XAH. Alpha 11 is a scalar. Alpha 12 again is a scalar. J is the inclusion map from Y to XAH. Y is a subspace of XAH. K12 is a compact operator from Y to XAH. K21 is a compact operator from XAH to Y. And alpha 22 is a scalar. IY is an identity on Y, is the identity on Y. And K22 is a compact operator from Y to Y. So all the operators in this new space Z would look like this. And they also show that if M1 is all those operators for which alpha 22 is 0, so this part becomes 0. And M2 is those, that set for which alpha 11 is 0. These two are closed two-sided ideals of codimension 1 in BZ. And precisely, we show that one of them have Hahn-Banach extension and the other does not. So this is one of the results. So look at, so M1 is this. So what we show here is basically M1 is a left Banach BZ submodule which has Hahn-Banach extension. So these are the few steps that we need to do to get to this result. So first of all, we look at any phi, which is a module homomorphism. We show step by step that we can extend it to a norm-preserving Hahn-Banach type extension to the whole of BZ. And then we show that we can have a norm-preserving Hahn-Banach type extension operator from LM1BZ to LBZ. Obviously, it is defined as xi of phi is psi. So M1 has HBEP. And we also show that M2 is a left submodule of A which does not have HBEP. And this helps us to conclude the following corollary, where we say that suppose we have a closed left ideal of BZ containing FZ, then if L is contained in M2, then L is a Banach left submodule which does not have HBEP. So you can see there could be plenty of submodules without having this property, right? For example, M1 intersection M2. Every proper closed left ideal L in BZ other than M2 is contained in a proper closed left ideal M with HBEP. So that's again a very strong result. So look at any proper closed left ideal other than M2. For example, M1 intersection M2, we can put this inside M1 and M1 has HBEP. So precisely this theorem in a sense is saying that other than M2 everything is well behaved, but just one is good enough to say that Simpson-Yost type result is not true. So this non-reflexive case shows us that we cannot have Simpson-Yost type result even for this particular Banach module, which is precisely is BE, that is the set of all bounded linear transformations from E to E. So these are my, so before going into the references, the remark that I would make here is, as you can see, and as you have observed that I have quoted results, when people have tried to answer Simpson-Yost type questions in this context and also in the context of Hilbert modules, but as you can see, it cannot be answered in full generality. This is just one example of a Banach module where we have answered the question for reflexive Banach spaces in full, and for non-reflexive, we have given a counter example to show that it is not true. Now, there are humongous other possibilities to explore. You know, we can look at many other types of Banach algebras. We can have different conditions on, we can look at different Banach modules and ask the questions, and we can have conditions like Frank had for Hilbert modules, special types of C-star algebras. He had some conditions imposed on C-star algebra to make this work. So all these possibilities are still wide open, and I think it will be fascinating to look at these questions. So let me share my, these are some of the references, and anyone who wants the copy of the paper, I can send it to you. So these are the references, and thank you for being so patient to listen to me. And that's the end of my talk. Thank you.
Okay.
I would like to say that it is a wonderful talk, and she mentioned Max Dawes, and Dawes is giving a talk at 6:30 at Access University, where Maria Plout comes from. So we have to hurry up and join the talk by Katabolis. And since she praised me so much, I would like to say a gardener waters all the plants, but flowers bloom only on some plants. And Sudeshna worked hard and flowers bloom. I do that all the time.
Yes, anyone who knows Ajit ji well would know that she is always watering all the plants. Anyway, thank you all for being so patient and listening to me.
Yeah, so then I'm asking the audience, is there any question or any comment on Sudeshna Ma'am's talk? But you have anyway the chance to ask her because she's around at our university, and a part of you are having lecture with her. If there are no questions now, then let's thank the speaker again very much for a very beautiful talk. A clap.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you all for being here. Thank you, Maria, for being here. So nice to see you.
Nice.
And you know, I'm kind of a nagging person. I'll keep you disturbing for giving a talk at our department. I know, well, it's a good thing to know me, but I'm that
It
kind
was
of a
very
person.
interesting.
Thank you so much for
And-
being here, and thank you, Stefan, for hosting us. Thanks to everyone.
Was a
If
pleasure.
it is possible, I would like a copy of your talk.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'll
Thank you
send
very
you.
much.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Sure.
In fact, maybe we can send that to all.
I can
members
send it
of
to you also, Stefan. Yes.
our university.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, very nice. Yeah, I don't know if we have any talk next week. I think so far is nothing scheduled.
But we do have one after that on 28th, but it will be a little later at 6:30 p.m. because the speaker said it's a little difficult for her to do it at 5:30. So it will be Beata Rantonio from Miami University, Oxford. And
oh, God. Yeah, next month we have already scheduled a number of lectures. So
yes, so we are good.
So we will go on during summer also.
Okay, thank you so much, everyone. Bye, everyone. Stay safe.
Bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.